What Lonzo Thinks is a wide-ranging, free-flowing discussion where I offer my unsolicited views on everything from music, movies, politics, sports, religion, pop culture, you name it. If it's happening, I'm talking about it. My thoughts are unsolicited, they're mine, and I share them because I want to share them, and damn it, I'm arrogant enough to think that somebody's going to want to hear it. Alright, and I am back, and I have reached the end of my journey. What journey, you ask? The PRiNCe journey. I started way back with For You, and I have reviewed every PRiNCe studio release during his lifetime, and sadly I have reached the end, which is HitNRun Phase 1 and Phase 2, albums number 38 and 39 in his vast, storied catalog. It's taken me a while to get this one done. Why? Because I really didn't want to, because it signifies something to me that obviously is still kind of raw and painful to me, and that is the end of Prince's life, and knowing that we will never get any new original music from him, obviously, other than the stuff that comes out of the vault that the leeches and parasites are going to harvest and release against Prince's wishes. But anyways, I'm not going to talk about that, at least not just yet. I'm going to review HitNRun Phases 1 and 2, and as usual I will give a brief snapshot opinion on each song and kind of wrap it up with an analysis on the whole. So here we go. PRiNCE, HitNRun Phase 1. It was released in 2015 in September, on September 15th, 2015, in fact, and it followed up the Artificial Age and Third Eye Girl releases, which really showed PRiNCE going in different directions with his music. And even at his advanced age at this time and being kind of like old school now in the music industry, he still shows that he still had some tricks up his sleeves, and that he still was on the cutting edge of music, as he was able to craft together an eclectic collection of progressive sounds, as well as some digging back into his reservoir with some classic sounds as well. So, that being said, let's jump into it. Track number 1 from Phase 1 is $1 Million Show, which really is more of an intro than anything else. It kind of opens with, I believe, with a medley of some of his earlier stuff, starting with For You, the very first song from For You, the title track. And it's kind of symbolic and prophetic, I guess, that his last album opens with the very first song from his first album. I think PRiNCE knew something was up. I think he knew the end was near. Next up is Shut This Down. Now, Shut This Down is an up-tempo track that has some rap influence to it, I think, the way he's kind of chanting his verses. It's a throwback to his days when he was experimenting a whole lot with the rap. It's a catchy tune, up-tempo tune. You can nod your head to it. It's definitely from that era, from 2015. It's influenced, obviously, by the sounds of that time. So it's definitely a current-sounding record, and he does not embarrass himself with his lyrics. Actually, it's a fun song to listen to. It's a definite headbanger, and a great start to the album. Next up is Ain't About to Stop, featuring Rita Ora. I don't know much about Rita, don't really care. Ain't About to Stop. Nondescript tune. I really haven't listened to it that much, to be honest with you, because I really don't like it that much. Not a bad song, but not a great song either. I listened to it earlier today, and I really still could not get into it. Followed by Like a Mac. Now, Like a Mac, I did not like it at all. I guess because it's just the title itself is kind of outdated, so it kind of phased me out, for lack of for no pun intended, so to speak, just because of the title, because people really don't use the term Mac anymore. So it kind of shows that in regards to this particular song, he was kind of behind the curve on it. It has kind of a progressive, horny, jazzy type feel to it. Not a bad song, just something that really kind of put me off because I don't like the title. Next up This Could Be Us, which is a holdover from the Artificial Age LP as well. This Could Be Us is a great song. I loved it on Artificial Age. I love it on this record as well. Great song. Definitely listen to it. It definitely has This Could Be Us, has a more of a progressive sound to it as well. Next up is Fall in Love Tonight, which is a nondescript pseudo ballad, so to speak. I like the use of horns with this particular record. It's solid. It's a solid follow-up to This Could Be Us. Next up is, I guess, X-Face. I'm assuming he's referring to maybe Kisses and Hugs or whatever, or Kisses. But that being said, it's a short track, nondescript. Nothing wrong with it. It's not anything you need to skip. It's just there. It's filler. That's a good word for it. Hard Rock Lover is next. Now, Hard Rock Lover is a laid back. It has like the most R&B feel of anything on this particular record, and it has a nice jazzy touch to it as well. It's typical PRiNCe for this time, where he's not really at this point in his career. He's not going for hits. He's basically just dealing out stuff that's close to him, that he feels good about. He's just putting it out there. And Hard Rock Lover feels like a song where he's really not attempting to do anything with it. He is just simply there to entertain, and that's what it does. Next up is Mr. Nelson featuring Leanne LaHavis, whatever, whoever that is. I don't know. Another short track, nondescript. It's filler. Don't skip it. It's good. It's good filler. Next up is Thousands of Kisses and Hugs, or X's and O's. I'm sure he's referring to Kisses and Hugs by that title. He actually does say that during the song, so that's what it is. 1,000 Kisses and Hugs. Once again, nondescript. It's filler, but it's progressive filler, and it does feel good. It sounds good. Good song. Next up is June, which is the last track number 11. And I'm kind of indifferent about it. I just listened to it right before I started this podcast. And once again, it's not a bad song at all. It's just kind of there. It's one thing about this particular, about Phase 1, there's no big sprawling track that I usually get on each PRiNCe record. This doesn't have a sprawling feel to it. The one song that does have a more of a sprawling type of feel to it, to be honest with you, is really 1,000 Kisses and Hugs. But that's the most, I think it's the longest track. It may be the longest track too, but the only one that kind of feels kind of epic. And I was hoping that June would be more epic than it was, but it was more like a whimper than a bang to kind of close out Phase 1. As we roll over into Phase 2, which was released a few months later in December of 2015. And with Phase 2, it has more of an R&B jazzy feel to it, as opposed to the progressive, more current sound of Phase 1. I'm sure that was on purpose. It opens with the track Baltimore, which was also released, I think, on SoundCloud. It was a track aimed at the violence and unrest in the city of Baltimore with the Freddie Gray murders and things of that nature. So this is the most political record he's done in a while. And it's a great song, a great open to the record itself because of the tone of it and what he's trying to accomplish with that record. I really like Baltimore a lot. It's a great opening to this record. Next up is Rock and Roll Love Affair, which once again has a pure R&B sound to it. I like it a lot. I listen to it quite often. Actually, I just listened to it earlier today. And Rock and Roll Love Affair is my one of my favorite tracks from this record. It has a nice jazzy, groovy R&B feel to it. It's a lounge song. I feel it makes me feel good to kind of just sit back, close my eyes, put on the headphones, and just mellow out to it. Next up is 2Y.2D, which I really could not get into. It feels like it may have belonged more towards Phase 1 than Phase 2. It kind of feels out of place with the rest of this particular record, and I don't think it belongs there. So I don't really like it that much. Next up is Look at Me, Look at You, which once again, it feels like a better companion to Rock and Roll Love Affair than 2Y2D. So generally, if I'm listening to this record, I'll skip 2Y2D and jump right into Look at Me, Look at You, which once again has a nice jazzy, laid back feel to it. It's kind of taking me back to the maybe the mid '80s Prince, the way it kind of makes me feel a little bit. Next up is Stare. Now, Stare is the only song that really make me mad at Prince. It just make me hard mad at him. And the reason being is, if you may remember, he pulled all of his music off of Spotify. But he did leave Stare as a single on Spotify. That really ticked me off because, you're going to take your catalog off of Spotify, but leave this one song. And I felt that was really disingenuous of him to do this, because if you're gonna take your music off of Spotify, take all your shit off. Don't leave this one song that's your single now that you're trying to push. So based on that, I've only listened to Stare once, just because of the anger behind all that. And actually, the bigger story to Stare is that, as you well know, if you've been listening to my podcast and my reviews, you know that from 1978, June of 1978, every single day, I listened to at least one Prince song every day of my life, up until he pulled Spotify and left Stare. I got so upset that I boycotted for one day, did not listen to any Prince at all, and broke my streak. Obviously I picked it back up the next day, and that streak is still alive. The new streak is still alive as of today. But I was really ticked off with him doing that, and I've never listened to Stare since then. Not at all. Just that one time. So, Stare, it gets a big thumbs down from me. Extra Lovable is next. Classic R&B type feel to it. A nice, it's not a straight up slow jam ballad, but it has that slow jam ballad groove and feel to it. And speaking of groove, next up is Groovy Potential, which also is a nondescript tune. There's really not a whole lot that I can say about it, other than the fact that I like listening to it. Next up is When She Comes. Same difference with Groovy Potential. These songs kind of morph one into another. They're really kind of nondescript. They don't really stand out. So they're not bad songs. They're just nondescript songs. Next up is Screwdriver. I feel like Screwdriver is a missed opportunity. I love the title. And I think a title like Screwdriver deserves a more dynamic song. I don't think the title kind of fits the song itself. I was expecting one thing and got something else from Screwdriver, so I'm kind of disappointed by it. Black Muse is next. Black Muse is one of the most, I think it's the most sprawling track on this particular record. It runs about 7 or 8 minutes. And once again, I love the jazzy feel to it. And I've said more than once, Prince would have been a great jazz artist if that's all he ever focused on. But Black Muse definitely has that feel to it. Like it a lot. I listen to it often. Followed by Revelation, which is kind of a come down to me from Black Muse, so I don't listen to it that often. It just kind of leaves me dry. And finally, Big City. Now, Big City, I want to say that I love it, but I don't, because it's the last song from the last album Prince ever did. I wish it would have ended it with a more distinctive track, but Big City is not that. It's pretty long. It's over almost 7 minutes long, but it's filler at the end of the album. That's basically what it is. And I wish that the last record, or the last song from the last record Prince ever released, just would be a little bit more distinctive. So that's it. Phase 1 had 11 tracks. Phase 2 had 12 tracks. Really, the only track that really doesn't really count, I think, is the first track from Phase 1. And because it's more just an intro. But as a cohesive whole, Phase 1 is more, like I said, more progressive, more. It has a 2015 sound feel to it. He's still experimenting with new sounds and kind of attaching himself to the trends of that time, and the music kind of reflects that. You can tell that he was still out there listening to the other artists and gaining inspiration from where music was at that time. And Phase 1 is I think a reflection of that, whereas Phase 2 is more of him kind of digging back into his archives and being more of the traditional Prince artist that we're kind of used to. So as a tandem, Phase 1 and Phase 2 works. It has songs for each type of mood, where you're feeling, as far as what you're feeling and what you kind of want out of Prince at this phase of his career, so to speak. So as a cohesive between the two, I think it's a solid release. It's a good end to a storied career. Not a great end, but a good end. As I said before, I feel that he may have known that the end was near, and he did want to leave us with something that we can kind of hold on to, we can sink our teeth into, and Phase 1 and Phase 2 is definitely that. Now, commercially, each record didn't do great, obviously, because PRiNCE was past that time where he could just release anything and automatically shoot to #1. He was just past that phase of his career. I keep using the word phase because that's definitely what it is. That phase of his career. He was just past that. So each album, it did make the top 10 on the R&B charts, and it did chart on the Hot 100 album charts, Billboard, landing in the 40 range. So it was not a hit record either way. But of course, the diehard fans like myself, we definitely put our hands on it, and we did listen to it ad nauseum, and I give it the attention and respect that it was due. But once again, PRiNCE was at the phase of his career where that stuff really didn't matter. Record sales really didn't matter. It was just him. It was just a man and his art. And in that regards, I definitely respect it. Definitely appreciate his last album. Like I said, I don't listen to it a lot, but I do listen to it enough the way it's going to stay in my rotation. And when I do mixtapes, I do have some songs from each record. And as I usually say, if an alien came to planet Earth and said, "Hey, tell me something about PRiNCE Phase 1 and Phase 2," the songs that are going to jump out, of course, is going to be "This Could Be Us," of course, also "Rock and Roll Love Affair," and "Baltimore." Those are the ones I really say, hey, those are the ones you really need to take a deep listen to. But as a whole, you can still listen to this record, be pleased, be entertained by it, and get something definite from it. So that being said, what do you think? Listeners out there, what do you think about PRiNCE Hit and Run Phase 1 and Phase 2? Are you indifferent to it? Did some of the tracks kind of not leave you dry like it did me? But as cohesive art, a piece of work, are you engaged by it? Do you listen to it often, or is it just something that you have in your collection? You can just pull from it when you need to, but it's not something that's on the tip of your tongue that you gotta listen to on a periodic basis. And that's kind of where I am with it, to be honest with you. Like I said, when I do a mixtape or whatever, I will take some songs from these two, but it's not a go-to for me. I listened to it today, both of them today, because I knew I was doing the podcast, doing the review of both of them today. But prior to today, I hadn't listened to them at all this year. I think the last time I listened to Phase 1 or Phase 2 was around the beginning of last year, to be honest with you, like maybe like March, April of last year. Because generally when it comes March, April time, obviously with his death approaching, the anniversary of his death approaching, I started listening to him a whole lot more as far as just all the albums. So I think that'll probably continue. What I'll probably start doing is maybe around March and late March, early April, is just listen to every album from beginning to end up until obviously the anniversary of his death. Just kind of stay abreast of everything that I have of his, and definitely keeping his music in the forefront of my listening pleasures. I know it's kind of obsessive, but hey, we all have our obsessions. So what do you think? Hit me up. Let me know what you think about PRiNCE Hit and Run Phases 1 and 2. Comment below. Hit me up on Twitter at What Alonzo Thinks. Instagram, of course. Facebook. You can email me, whatalonzothinks@gmail.com. As usual, I do appreciate your comments and your I still get a lot of comments from everyone and my subscribers. I really appreciate it. Really, thank you for keeping up with me, and it kind of keeps me alert and keeps me going. As I've said in the past, my schedule is really compressed. I have to try to carve out time here and there to do my reviews, but I do appreciate you sticking with me. My subscribers, I do appreciate your comments and your requests. I do have a lot of requests. I'm going to get to them. I promise you I will, as my schedule allows. But definitely hit me up. Let me know what you think about Hit and Run Phases 1 and 2. I always want to know what you think, because as usual, you just heard what Lonzo thinks. Bye.